Do you know your soul? Do you know how important it is to not only know your soul, but to connect with it regularly so you can lead this life from that soul space? And of course, it's like, well, do you know how to connect with your soul? And do you know why? Again, the why behind it. Because life just gets easier. I promise you that. I can promise that. If you connect to your soul on a regular basis, if you get to know your soul, if you then begin to lead your life with your soul, everything can change. Your life will get easier. So, again, do you know your soul? Not that version of you that shows up every day. I mean, unless you do know your soul and you know how to connect with it and you know how to lead with it. Otherwise, that part of ourselves that shows up every day is our human self. Often our ego self. Nothing wrong with an ego. We all have one. It's what helps us to survive. But it's not that personality within all of us that's learned how to navigate the world. It's a deeper, calmer, more loving part of yourself. That's the soul space. The part that exists in every single one of us beneath the noise, beneath the busyness, beneath the insecurities or the armor that we tend to put up and around ourselves. So I've just returned from a retreat in the jungle of Mexico, Lunita Jungle Retreat, where I'll be guiding a retreat next February. And the land was sacred. I mean, the trees felt alive, like they just whispered to you. You're in the most sacred elements of nature, like earth and air and water and fire, and just the space that you're in all play a role in, well, guiding us all back into our soul, where you get to understand you're human as well, your ego, but your soul, you get to know your soul. And you know, what surprised me when I was on this, I was a participant in this particular retreat, and of course, you got the beauty and the sacredness and the magical jungle all around you. But what surprised me is what arose within me as being a participant. When I guide retreats, I am very much in my soul space. As a participant, I really noticed my human, my ego, my personality much louder. But I didn't push it away. I stayed very curious with it. I stayed open. I stayed compassionate to my human who had, a lot of things going on in her head. I stayed grounded in my body, aware of my human, and I experienced it from that space. And that in itself became my practice. That's not easy to do. But we were guided by two beautiful souls, Carrie and Krista, and they're from Earth Soul Revival Retreats, I think is their company. And they guided our group. We were a small group of 8. It was just amazing. And they guided us straight from the heart. They guided us soul to soul, with love, with humor, with connection, with acceptance, with adventure. I mean, it was beautiful. And it was so good. Good's the wrong word. It was amazing to go beyond the human experience and simply be a soul that connects with other souls. Because in an environment like that, I mean, something just magical happens. We soften. Our human softens. And we remember who we are. We remember that soul part of us. I mean, I say it all the time. We're souls having a human experience. We're in this world, but we're not of this world. All of those, spiritual quotes. But this is where you experience. I mean, the human self is essential. But it gets loud sometimes. It judges, it can criticize, it can be our own worst enemy in our head. It worries, it thinks a lot, at least mine does. It compares, it defends, it's busy. But it's keeping us alive. What our human really wants in this world is to belong, to be seen, to be heard, to be safe, to be understood. But the soul, on the other hand, it doesn't need to rush. It doesn't judge. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just needs to be. And your soul, it's not something that you need to fix. Your human isn't even something you need to fix. Because when you remember who you are, that soul space, your human just, again, life gets easier. Your human sees things and experiences things and heals. So, we show up in a whole different space when we know our soul. We still live our lives, of course, we're in this world, but we don't let the noise of the world pull us away from ourselves. We don't let the stresses of the world, we don't let our dramas and our illnesses and our pain, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, we don't let it pull away from ourselves. So my invitation to all of you this week is to reflect. I invite you to reflect on your soul, to ask that, do I know my soul? Am I willing to get to know my soul? The soul speaks to us through nature. That's why my experience there was like magnified. But it speaks to us through connection with other souls. That's, if you're connecting with other souls, we can connect ego to ego. Most of the world actually does. But when you really connect with the soul, there's a stillness. There's a deeper love. That's where joy and laughter and a presence comes in. So we connect. That's how your soul speaks to other souls, is through nature and stillness and creativity and laughter and joy. But the invitation is to reflect, to meet your soul if you haven't really spent much time with it. If you don't know your soul, or you're not sure how to get to know your soul, there's some questions I want you to reflect on this week. So what can you do that moves you out of your head and into your body? Like for me, movement does it. Just instantly, whether it's yoga, whether it's fitness, whether, even movement of my breath, just, movement does it. Energy work, anything. Instantly, I can come out of my head. Tapping, that's another one. Like movement, that's mine. That gets me out of my head and into my body. But that's what you ask yourself. Reflect on that. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you're caught up in your head. You're caught up in the drama. You're caught up in the panic. You're caught up in the pain. So you need to understand what helps me get out of my head and into my body. And if you're not sure, you then go a little deeper. Well, when was the last time you felt calm or creative or deeply present? For me, that's every morning when I meditate or I go stand out in nature. You can ask another question. What brings you joy? Just being with my family, being with my children, listening to them laugh and talk. I don't even have to, be in the midst of it. I can just watch them. Teaching. I love teaching. I love teaching fitness. I love teaching retreats. I love being with my friends and laughing. That brings me joy. That's when I'm going to be in my soul space, and that's when I get to know my soul. It's important that we slow down. And for humans and egos, that can be uncomfortable, especially if you got that, monkey mind and you're all caught up in the pain and the drama. To be still and quiet and to slow down, often, like a lot of people just are busy because they're afraid of slowing down and actually feeling in or listening in. So again, it's a practice of slowing down, right? So, and interesting for me, I can ask myself that. I ask my soul, is it uncomfortable to slow down and to just simply be? Mornings for me, no. It's, I crave that. But when I get into my day and I get caught up in life and back into my human and my ego and my personality, it's harder for me to slow down. I have all of these excuses. Oh, when I slow down, I lose my mojo, I lose my momentum. It's a little uncomfortable for me to slow down. So yeah, in the afternoon or later afternoon, it's not as easy for me to slow down. But it's important that I do, and I know that. Another question, when do I feel more like myself? Well, I know when I'm teaching. And I'm teaching, whether it's yoga, fitness, these talks. That's when I feel most like myself. And another last question. When do you lose all track of time? What is something that you do that you're like, my example would be when I'm doing Reiki on someone. Those are 1.5 hour sessions. I will often, finish up a session with someone and I feel like I've been working with them for 10 minutes. I lose myself. My soul just takes over that whole session. So these are the things, these are the questions to ask that connects you to your soul. These are the times, the spaces that you get to know your soul, where you're not striving or forcing, you're just aware of the connection. And in that space, when you ask those questions and you get the answers, and don't worry if you don't get the answers right away, this is reflection. It's not like I need the answers and I need to start doing this. No, you start to understand and get the answers and then start to make, you don't strive, you don't force. No, you nurture that relationship with your soul. It's just a simple presence without resisting it, without needing to defend it or make excuses. And I know that's scary for a lot of people. So we also need to be very gentle with ourselves, with our ego, with our personality, with our human, and very compassionate. So I'll wrap it up here. But really what I do know for sure is that you don't need to travel to a jungle to meet your soul. It's amazing if you do, but you don't need to travel to a jungle to get there. Just visualize yourself in nature. Just spend some time with yourself. Just breathe, be in silence and stillness. And you're there. You're there connected with your soul. So this week, allow yourself moments of grounding, moments of connecting to your breath, moments of simply being. And that is when your human begins to soften, where the ego starts to get out of, that narrow-mindedness. And when the soul starts to arise to connect with you, your soul is always there. It is just patiently waiting for you to connect. It's always there. You slow down, when you take the time, when you reflect on these questions, you meet your soul. You connect with your soul. You get to know your soul. And then you begin to lead your life from that soul space. And I promise you, life gets easier. It gets beautiful. So that is my invitation to all of you this week, my friends. Get to know your soul. Meet it, greet it, nurture your soul. Enjoy. Namaste.